The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. Housing affordability is a North American-wide issue. In the U.S., only 7 states and Washington, D.C. have imposed rent controls as a measure to address housing affordability. Only 7 states, largely because it is believed they don't work. In a poll conducted by the American Economic Association, 93% of its members agreed that a ceiling on rent controls reduces the quality and quantity of housing. David Hutniak, the CEO of Landlord B.C., in a recent letter to Premier Eby said, "Rent control is a flagship political tool and a promise that is far more complex than it first appears. It is not the comprehensive form of tenant protection it is billed to be. While it is commonly accepted that rent controls benefit current tenants, it does so at the expense of future ones." Hutniak further pointed out that rent control is a blunt tool that continually delivers negative blows to the BC rental housing market. Tenants and landlords both want a balanced rental market. Hutniak adds, "When the provincial government continues to penalize landlords for a problem created by all 3 levels of government, landlords and developers are less inclined to grow their businesses, less likely to build new rental housing, and the result is a reduction in supply of housing." I invited David Hutniak of Landlord B.C. to join me for a conversation that matters about effective ways to create affordable rental housing. Am I being a little harsh there about rent controls in that intro? And I know that I'm pulling from this letter that you wrote to David Eby, but there is this general sense amongst the public that, oh no, rent controls can help to keep housing affordable. Is that a mirage?
It is, and there have been multiple studies to basically demonstrate that rent control basically suppresses supply at the end of the day. And ultimately, the folks who are hurt the most are those that, governments are trying to help, which is renters. And we can just look at British Columbia. The fact of the matter is we have persistently low vacancy rates, and we're not building enough supply. We have large immigration, which is a good thing. We need it, but it's exacerbating the situation. And what happens is when you have huge demand, low supply, not building any new supply, certainly at scale, that it's, there are renters who are going to be able to find some housing. Generally, they are, higher income earners, et cetera. And increasingly, it's the more vulnerable renters, lower income renters, that get squeezed out of the market. And so, it's just an inappropriate sort of measure to really address the supply issue. And I guess from our perspective as the industry association representing owners and managers of rental housing, we applaud the province for the many initiatives they're trying, but we struggle to understand why they don't consider the tool that will in fact really address this issue, not just today but in the long term, and that is addressing the rent control issue, ideally transitioning out of rent control.
Do anybody, or does anybody from the government actually give you a call as they're formulating this policy to say, this is what we're looking at doing, what do you think it might do to help to address the affordability and supply issues?
Short answer, no.
They don't even talk to you?
No, and I think governments of all political stripes struggle with this issue. But I think the BC NDP government actually has a real opportunity here. And I'm not naive here. Obviously, renters are a significant constituency for the BC NDP at the polls. But if one really thinks about it, it is highly unlikely that renters will abandon the BC NDP in any provincial election. So I think there's an opportunity here for real thoughtful conversation, and for the Premier Eby and Minister Kahlon, who are totally focused on supply. They understand the challenges and the issues, and I sincerely believe they understand that rent control has a negative impact on supply. So, it would be, I think, this is an opportunity. This is a moment in time here where I really think, we need, it's not just bold action. We obviously need, to a sea change here in thinking. And so we're not, again, naive that just to eliminate rent control across the board is something that can readily be done. But we think that there's transition opportunities here, and we know that there's a large cohort of renters in British Columbia who do not need the support of rent control. We believe it could be income tested. We believe that that's going to give greater confidence to owners and developers of rental housing to invest in the existing stock, build more new stock at scale, and it provides the government with an opportunity, working with our sector, to really provide more support for those who truly need it. And I think that's what we all should really be concerned about. And so, like I said, I think this is a moment in time where we need to really just, for some extremely bold action.
So that bold action that you're talking about is income testing. The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. So that bold action that you're talking about is income testing.
Well, I mean, it's
that would be one part of it.
That would be the beginning of the transition to no rent control. I think over some period of time we would transition to no rent control. That's the ultimate goal here in terms of, from a long-term perspective, in terms of truly ensuring that we have an overabundance of rental housing, and purpose-built rental housing in particular. The other issue is, right now the province is looking at different initiatives to encourage the secondary market. They announced last week the $40,000 interest-free loan, to build a basement suite, for example. So they're targeting that secondary market because they know that housing could come on board in like 6 months. Mm-hmm. It takes 2-3 years to build an apartment building. So this transitional approach, as one idea to do that income testing, that would suddenly, in our view, open up a ton of secondary market housing, condos, basement suites, et cetera, because that whole market obviously is there today. We know the Vancouver Sun, I guess it was a study of some sort, but nevertheless, or survey, they came back with results that were staggering. They said 30% of people who have space to provide rental housing in their home will not do it because they're afraid of getting a tenant who, bad tenant is how the survey put it. And also they feel the legislation is too, much in favor of tenants. Now that was the survey. But it's a number that's startling. 30%
said, I'm not doing it no matter what.
Absolutely. Yeah. So can you imagine if we created a more conducive environment to encouraging those people to do that? Again, that doesn't even take 6 months because they don't have to build anything. They have rentable units in their homes today. So we certainly believe that transitioning out of rent control would be one of those significant measures that would encourage these folks to participate as long-term rental housing providers. So, again, it's just it's an interesting opportunity in our view. It's a needed measure if we're really going to solve this problem in the long term. And we're encouraging the province to seriously consider this.
What else? What else can we do from your perspective? And the reason that I think that your perspective is valuable is that nobody else talks to landlords. I think that it's better to keep landlords nameless and faceless because then you can point to those horrible, greedy people who are just making money off of the poor's back. But we're actually talking about people who care about providing rental housing. Yes, it's a business, but what else are landlords saying? Well, I could do this and I could do this, except for the rules and regulations stand in the way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, we've always said that the vast majority of renters are good renters, good tenants. The vast majority of landlords are good landlords. There's no question that there's bad actors on both sides of the equation here, and that's really unfortunate. But absolutely, when we look at our membership, 3,300 members representing in the order of 175,000, 180,000 units of rental housing in the entire universe. Two-thirds are in that secondary market with basement suites or investor condos, what have you.
Two-thirds, that's
absolutely,
a lot.
Which is representative of the actual universe.
Right.
That's basically two-thirds of the market in British Columbia is a secondary market landlord of housing, rental housing, and absolutely, many of the folks in the secondary market, have a basement suite because they need that to maintain their own housing. Housing generally, as we all know, is so expensive here in British Columbia. It's become, right now in the next 12, 18 months, I think, we're going to see some very concerning developments here where mortgages that were at 1.5%, 2.5% are going to be coming due. I mean, the banks are already, giving the general public a heads up and saying that, literally in 12 to 18 months, we're going to see some real pain coming out of this. So I think, it's just it's a fantastic time for government and to really look at we need supply to come on stream really quickly. So let's take advantage of all the tools. And I think it's just really unfortunate that we continue to ignore the one that really will have the biggest and quickest impact. And like I said, it's basically looking at removing price controls. We had the rent increase for 2023 it's another example. So we were the Residential Tenancy Act specifies CPI was supposed to be 5.6%. It ended up being 3.5%. Year before that, it was supposed to be 5.4%. It was 2%. So, I mean, the government has admitted that, they need to sort of not intervene going forward. But this is part of the challenge. And again, I don't want to criticize a lot of the really good work they're doing. But I think, like I said, they're ignoring a really important tool that could be a game changer.
The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. Let's say we take a look at one of these landlords that has a unit in their basement. Their mortgage is now coming up for renewal, and they see the increase in the cost of their mortgage. They turn to their tenant and say, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
I need to raise my rent. And the tenant goes, no, you can't raise it that much.
Yeah.
What does that then do to the landlord? What are their options? And then what's the impact of that on the supply?
Well, I mean, the options are minimal, to be perfectly candid with you, because, barring the tenant breaching the tenancy agreement in some way, you can't just simply end the tenancy. Certainly, we're seeing, folks who may have a condo that they're renting out and it's not their principal residence. Often there's an opportunity where they may take it for personal use. A son or a daughter may live in the unit, but I mean, those opportunities need to be real and done in good
Legitimate.
faith, and yeah, absolutely. So no, this is the thing, and we know that there's a lot of these small landlords who are really under financial pressure. We're also not immune to the fact that there's probably a whole lot of people who don't care about that. But the reality is we need to care because right now the entire system is really at risk here, and the last thing we need is, we have seen many small landlords basically when the tenant leaves, what have you, they rather than continuing in the industry, they basically have concluded, well, it's the risk and the liability is too high. It's better to just get out of it, and I can get 6% or 5.5% on a GIC with no risk, and it's a better rate of return. So that's happening. It's not hyperbola.
Right. Then they take that unit out of the market.
Exactly.
Alternatively, they might go with this change in my mortgage rates, not being able to get covered by or the contribution to my overall expenses that I was getting from rental.
Right.
I might be forced to sell. And in doing so, that changes everything.
Absolutely. And again, I think we're entering, a lot of unknowns, frankly, because, how quickly interest rates came up when interest rates were so low for so long, historically low interest rates. There's no question. There's a whole lot of people who over-leveraged and purchased these units with the intention of renting them at the time. And the other thing is many of them have variable rate mortgages. So, and again, there's a whole lot of people who probably don't care about that. But the reality is that certainly, government needs to care about that because of what you've just said. When this starts unfolding here again over the next 12, 18 months, it's going to be really interesting to see, but I have to believe that there's going to be a whole lot of people trying to sell their condos, for example, because they won't be able to raise rent and they won't be able to keep up the mortgage.
So without some kind of price control, how does the marketplace work for renters who are going, whoa, hang on a second, but then how does that then benefit the market overall if we remove those price controls? Yeah,
that's a real fair question. And no matter at any point in time, clearly moving from from rent control to no rent control, there's obviously opportunity for some serious pain for renters. So no one's suggesting that. This is why we're talking about a sort of a transitional approach and the income testing, because again, like I said, we know there's a significant cohort of renters who can afford market rent, do not need the protections of rent control, and then, like I said, there is a whole significant cohort who need some sort of support from government. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't necessarily agree that rent control is the solution here, but that's in existence today, and that's why a transitional approach, I think, would be should be fair to government and provide necessary protections for the most vulnerable. But it's a matter of it's not even a crisis anymore. Housing is a disaster. Rental housing in particular. And when we have wildfires or what have you, natural disasters, government is always there, triages the situation, gets the solutions that are needed, whatever they might be. But we're not doing that here with rental housing in particular. And again, we're not naive that there's philosophical issues here, there's political issues. But we just really think that this is a tool that will, in the long term, if we were to move to eliminating price controls in the rental housing market, that is how we will solve this issue of the long term. And that could be 10 years, but that at least we can seriously change where we are today.
The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. And is that because now in that marketplace, there's a reasonable business case to be a landlord? And once more and more people and organizations enter that marketplace, the supply increases. As supply increases, vacancy rates fall, and the market then starts to determine what the rental rates will be.
Well, absolutely. You create competition, and you know, the I don't want to suggest that, you know, tomorrow if we build all this rental, it's all going to be affordable rental. It's going to be affordable to a whole lot of people. It's going to be attainable to a significantly larger cohort of folks. But absolutely, there's going to continue to be a cohort of British Columbians who are renting their homes or are going to continue to need support. So that's where, you know, renter supports through portable housing benefits, the rent tax credit that the province is implementing next year. I mean, there's a whole toolbox of solutions there to help those who really, truly need the help. But in the meantime, instead of having these higher income earners earning renters basically taking up the units that, you know, those more challenged economically should have, you know, we have a huge supply over here that they have access to. And the other thing is, I mean, again, we know this because our industry more broadly studies it. You know, a couple making $120,000, $150,000 a year, they would love to be able to move into a newer unit with more amenities, what have you. They'd love to have that choice. But basically, many of them are just forced to stay where they are because there's nowhere to go. Right. So it's the whole system right now is just not working for anybody, whether you're, you know, at the lower end of the income spectrum or even if you're making, you know, a good annual family income. So you know, what we're saying is that the conduit to really seeing huge growth in the construction of new rental housing will be, you know, transitioning out of rent control. It's the one tool that works, and it just, you know, we need to seriously look at it in this province.
Is there a jurisdiction that we can look to say they're getting it right?
Well, I mean, in Canada, Alberta, you know, has always been a jurisdiction with no rent control, and you know, they've had you know, steady growth in terms of new supply. Although, you know, they're playing some catch up now because they've had huge in-migration from all provinces outside of Canada. So, you know, I think they got the market there got caught flat-footed a little bit. But you know, there's a great example here in 2021. So the state of Minnesota basically said, okay, to all the cities, we want some form of rent control. And so Minneapolis, St. Paul, you know, the sister twin cities, whatever they call them, Minneapolis was vehemently opposed and fought back against the state government. And St. Paul decided, no, we're going to implement rent control. 3 months after they did so, 80% of the rental applications for new construction evaporated. Mm-hmm. They all went to Minneapolis. Minneapolis, in the first year of basically St. Paul having rent control, them not, saw the number of units started, completed, what have you, various stages, increased by over 30%. And it's continuing today. And so in the interim, St. Paul has basically,
stagnated.
They've basically looked at ways that they can adjust the rent control to basically transition out of it, mm-hmm. because they've lost all this potential new housing and they need it. So it was really interesting to see that, because you know, many of the studies that we have are, you know, from early 90s, late 90s or sooner. This was like a real world example, very current, you know, just very graphic example of two cities side by side and how that decision by one impacted them. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a similar opportunity here, but again, you know, we're looking for a thoughtful conversation on it, and looking at a transitional approach here. But right now, it's not on the table, and again, the tool that we feel can have the most positive impact in terms of adding significant supply is just not part of the conversation, and it needs to be.
Well, you need to be part of that conversation as well.
Yes.
Thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you very much.